James, I'm a bit off topic, but looking at everything that Landon Tengwall is doing, the media and everything, what does that say about what Penn State football is doing for players, after football?
Yeah, I'm just proud of Landon. I think he's got a unique perspective of being a high profile 4 to 5 star national recruit, so he understands that aspect of it. He's been a starter in a top 10 program in the Big Ten, so he knows what that's like. He understands the game. So I just think he's got a unique perspective on the game of football. And then obviously he understands Penn State. So I think he's doing a really good job. This was something we're trying to kind of figure out what the next phase was, whether it was coaching, whether it was strength and conditioning, whatever it may be, media. And he seems to be carving out a nice little niche for himself. And none of us are surprised. And then I think the other thing, obviously, is his ability to understand what our players are going through and also has relationships with them. I think he can ask really good questions that I think a lot of the fans want to hear. So I think he's doing a really nice job. I'm proud of him, and we're not surprised one bit. I think he's got a very, very bright future.
6-0 start is obviously moving you up in the rankings in the National Media's attention. How do you instruct your guys to handle that praise while still being composed and focusing on the task at hand?
Yeah, we don't really talk about it. We were 1-0 last week, and we're appreciative of that. I don't think we've talked about it one time in our building. We talked about another team's ranking today, showing a clip from a game this past weekend, and just talking about the effort that the young man played with. But we don't talk about that. Those things are out of our control. We really do not talk about it. We don't spend any time talking about those things. We just focus on trying to get better. And, I think so far our guys have done a pretty good job of that. And we're going to have to do that again this week because, coming up, we're going to be going on the road, night game, and another tough environment, jump around, all that good stuff. Really good program, well coached. So we're gonna need to take another step this week because these road games are challenging.
Coach, going back to talking about Andy's creativity, I know you said you ran something like that at Vanderbilt, but has he brought you any plays where you're just like, no, that's too far out of the box, and you just absolutely stonewalled him on anything yet?
No.
You have a couple games now of data for Zion Tracy as a punt returner. How would you evaluate his role back there so far and just your kicking punt return team in general?
Yeah, I think he did a nice job in the most important part of the job, which is catching. I thought there was one that he let get to the ground that he needs to catch. I do think as he gets more comfortable and more confident doing that, then he'll have the ability to make some more plays for us. But as you know, we've been kind of working through that all year long. And we've been down this road before. So hopefully we'll be getting Caden back at some point. Hopefully Zion continues to grow, which I think he will. Hopefully we'll get Jake Spencer back as well, another guy that's caught punts in college games before as well. And then there's other guys that are working on it too. So solid, but right now I think we're doing a really good job on special teams. If you look at us, like punt return, I don't think anybody's gotten a yard this year on punt return. That's based on coverage. That's also based on how we're punting the ball. So I think we're doing a really good job of limiting explosive plays and game-changing plays on special teams. Now we got to start to make a few of our own.
James, I think after the game you said this was a good time for a bye. Can you explain why and how do you handle this week as compared to the first time?
Well, I just think when you talk about the middle of the season, game 6, it's a good point to have a bye game. Sometimes you get a bye really early. Sometimes you get a bye late. And not the best position for the bye to land, but this is at a good point. And then obviously coming off a win, I'd probably feel very different if we hadn't come off a win. But coming off a win, there's good vibes, there's good mojo. We got a chance to still learn and teach and grow after a win, which I think is a really important skill and tool for us all to learn. Like I talked about before, you shouldn't need a setback to take a step forward, to have the maturity to work on the things that you need to improve. on. So I think the staff is approaching it that way. I think the players are approaching it that way. I thought today was a really good example of that.
Hey, James.
Just reference that Caden and Jacob guys you hope to get back. Does Keon Miley fall into that category? I ask because we saw him briefly today walking in. I don't recall seeing him on the field since last year. Not that he's practicing, but he has jerseys and shorts, so
Yep.
kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah, he's a guy we're hoping to get back at some point.
Okay, going back to Tyler, you talk about the offense. There's obviously
He's got his second question in before you got your first.
Go ahead.
there's some intelligence, I'm sure, with the talent. I'm curious how much he is involved in the offensive schemes that he's been able to run, and does he ever, bring certain ideas or plays that he'd like to be involved in?
Who are you talking about?
Tyler.
Warren?
Yep.
No, we're not against that. Players can bring ideas. Anybody can bring idea. If it's a good idea, we'll use it. If it's not, we won't. But I'm not aware of that happening at this point.
James, you run a lot of man coverage this year. You talked about that preseason in terms of wanting that to be a part of your identity. Turnovers seem to be a little bit down. Is that a trade-off in terms of, having guys with their back to the ball and not getting interceptions? And how does that work in terms of what you do and then maybe some things that don't show up because of those things?
Yeah, I don't have the data in front of me. It's a good question. I don't have the data in front of me. I don't know if we're playing more man this year than we did last year. I don't know if you know that.
About 40%.
Yeah, so a little bit more, but not much more, not significant in my mind. But no, I wouldn't say that's the case. But that's the stuff that we're going to be looking at this week while we do our self scouting. But I don't have that data yet.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.